Good afternoon. Today I'm talking to Paul. Hiya, Paul. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi there. Thank you very much for having me. Yes, so my name is Paul Gitsham, and I am the author of the DCI Warren Jones series of police procedurals. Today, June 4th, is a big day for me because it is the publication date for the 7th book in the series. It's the 7th full length. There are 4 novellas also. And basically, I am celebrating with a chip supper and a second jab. So party at the Gitsham house. So thank you very much for inviting me on to talk, though, Don. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and happy publication day to you.
Thank you.
And a happy second jab day as well, I guess. Also, something.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the warmth and happiness when people go for their jab. It's a couple of times I've heard about it, but it's almost a party atmosphere in there. I mean, everybody knows that it's a few weeks until you're fully protected, and even then, with all the variants and stuff, you really should continue as you were before. But there is this, there's just a kind of happy feeling in the room. Yeah,
it really is. It is a nice feeling. I've had both of mine as well, so it's good. Anyway, books.
Yes, books. You'll be pleased to know, by the way, if anyone's shielding from COVID by reading, my books are typically set 2 or 3 years prior to publication date, so no COVID in my books just yet.
So, did you always want to write?
I've always wanted to be a writer. Yeah, I mean, I'm a scientist by training. I was always very interested in science. My dad was a scientist as well, and I've always been really interested in that. Now, when it came to sort of writing, it was a hobby and a love of books, and my favorite thing in English lessons was the creative writing. My primary school teacher, bless her, would say, right, your homework is to write a 3-page story. So there's me handing a 50-page masterpiece. Well, maybe masterpiece is the wrong word. And bless her, she used to read it through. She used to always read through it. There's some of those stories, my mum found them the other day in a cupboard. That's where they'll stay. But I loved it. And in fact, when I actually left primary school, she wrote on my report well, 2 things. If my handwriting doesn't improve, I'll never get anywhere, and I should be the next Roald Dahl. And my handwriting has got worse, and unless Roald Dahl also wrote police procedurals, I've also failed on that count. But I always wanted to, and basically I always had something on the go, some sort of project. But I was at university. I did molecular biology at university. I did a PhD. I did research. Again, it's always something on the go. And it wasn't until I retrained as a school teacher, science teacher, after doing research, and I did a hobby, and I went to some writing classes. Because because I wanted to do it, and it was such good fun. I loved them. I loved the games and stuff. But we were encouraged to bring in some whatever we were working on, and I did. And that book again is never finished, but it really put the seed in my head. And it was that kind of really gave me a kick at the bum. And when I finally had the idea for the first book, The Last Straw, back in Easter 2011, I just celebrated 10 years of writing. When that seed took place, when it took hold, I went for it, and I finished that book. It was the first thing I'd ever finished in about September. So Easter to September, which is pretty quick. It's not normally that quick, and and then I just went immediately into writing a sequel. So that was the thing. It got me going then, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And now I'm a sort of hybrid. I do still do some science tutoring and stuff with and then split my time with the writing. So yes, I'm in a very, very happy medium at the moment. My 2 loves.
Nice. As someone that's just finished a forensic science degree, I really hate science with a passion.
Yeah, I have a couple of forensic scientists who follow me. In fact, I actually have a couple of former students. Because I teach science, there is for A level that there used to be. Unfortunately, the course has kind of disappeared. There was an applied science course, did a whole load of modules. One of the modules was forensic science. Now, ironically, I didn't used to normally teach that because there was 3 teachers and the other teacher did that module. But one year we had a timetable issue, which meant that I had to do an additional lesson a fortnight. And so Tim, who was teaching it, basically said, look, this is crazy. Why don't we do it so that I'll do the physics part, because he was a physics teacher, of the forensic science. We're doing like refraction indexes for broken glass. He used to do blood spatter. He said, why don't you do a couple of lessons? And so I did one on managing the crime scene. And the kids loved it because I teach in Essex, and we found West Midlands Police doing a video on how to secure a crime scene on YouTube. And when it started, when you first get to a crime scene, it's very important that nobody steps over the line. Well, the kids were just rolling about with this. You know, it's like, come on, guys, I'm from Coventry. You know, it's not the action's not that bad. And I did putative blood test. So we got some chicken blood and we got some fake blood, and we did the test with the peroxide and stuff, and it was really lovely. And in fact, a couple of those students went on and did degrees in forensic science, which was lovely. One of them came back actually to tell me about how she got full marks and all her essays. I mean, I'm not taking any credit whatsoever for that, but it was just fantastic. It was so lovely to see them again. So I've got there's a lot of science. It's fascinating. I mean, who knows, if I were to have my time over again, would I have gone into the molecular biology, which I enjoyed? Maybe not. Maybe I'd have gone for forensic science because it's more of a broader range of sciences instead of being so narrow, which is what my degree is.
Yeah, lots of chemistry. I hate chemistry.
That's why I'm teaching them both.
I hated it to begin with. Now I hate it even more. I never wish to learn anything about chemistry ever.
You should come to some of my online lessons, teaching practical chemistry online. Not a lot of practical work being done, but lots of videos from YouTube and stuff. Yes, that was a challenge.
I mean, if I fail my drugs and toxicology exam, then I might I have to retake it next year then. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I'll actually learn what the hell they're talking about, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
We seem to have digressed again. Should we go back?
We have.
Books? Yeah.
We've gone off. Yes, books. Yes, books. Yeah.
I'm blaming you, maybe. I can't remember. I'm sure it's not my fault. So, when you wrote your first book, did you think that you would be writing your 8th in the series?
No. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had the fantasy that would be, but I knew when I wrote that first book that it would be a series. I mean, I happen to like series fiction. I like standalones as well, but I do like series fictions, and I like getting to know a character over several books. So when I finished writing The Last Straw, I already had ideas for another couple. Having not successfully finished a book before, it was always, and I was working as a teacher, it's just stupid hours. Would it ever happen? And no, I mean, it would. It is a dream come true in many respects. And I look back and I can't believe it's been 10 years. It's, I had a self-proclaimed DCI Warren Jones Day back in April, because I was happened to be looking at some old files, and I found the first file I started with, The Last Straw, and the file creation date, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's 10 years is coming up soon. So we put it in the calendar, and I made sure I had a blog post and a sort of mini celebration and stuff. So that was really good fun. So I mean it's the 8th. Obviously the 8th. It would be the one I'm writing at the moment for next summer is the 8th full length. Then straight on to the 9th, And I've got the 4 novellas as well, and there's a couple of short stories kicking around. May make an appearance at some point. But to think that I've got all of that is just, it's mind blowing. If I told myself that 10 years ago, it would have been like, whoa, okay, that's unexpected.
If you were to place yourself in any of your books, what character would you be and which book would you choose?
Well, Warren, because he is me. I mean, my protagonist, DJ Warren Jones, who I didn't really talk about, I must admit, when I did the interview, but I did the introduction. So he shares a lot of similarities with me in that we're roughly the same age. He's 2 or 3 years older than me. We're both from Coventry. We both, not so much now, but certainly when I was at university, we do not like being called Brummies. Okay, our accent, while superficially similar to Birmingham, is not Birmingham. Warren is very keen for you to know that, as was I back then. Obviously, my accent has sort of blended a lot over the years. His wife Susan is a biology teacher, so I've put a bit of me in her. But he's a fussy eater, so that's me. His musical tastes, which he is teased about relentlessly by his colleagues, are 80s pop. And my partner and I listen to pretty much nothing but 80s pop when we've got the music on, the Heart 80s. Our Saturday nights, I don't know if the neighbours can hear us, but Saturday nights is game night in the kitchen, and we've got the radio on with Heart 80s. So, so in that respect, yes, it would have to be Warren in charge, sending everybody off. Which book? Well, that's tricky because I'm a bit of a bugger to him in most of them. Possibly The Last Straw, the first book, for the sole reason that he's new on the job, which is hard, but I haven't been really nasty to him yet. So yes, he's still here. He's in his mid-30s. He's started a new job. It's difficult. It's challenging. He's got his problems, but you know what? Everything's going fine. Earlier in the series, the better.
A random question, but if you were to choose any way you could die in a book, how would you choose to die?
Oh, well, it's got to be something talked about, isn't it? I mean, you don't want to do anything really embarrassing. Stepping off the curb, or choking on peanut butter. That's a good one. Peanut butter can be really sticky. I vowed never to eat peanut butter when on my own after an unfortunate incident in a flat a few years ago, when I genuinely did wonder if that was going to be it. That was going to die from peanut butter. So no, how would I die? Saving them. You have to be saved. We have to sacrifice, wouldn't you? You've got to be, you've got to be bigged up. We've got to have people at the funeral saying, and the news saying, hero, police officer, killed in the line of duty. Right. Head on, okay. Tackling a terrorist, taking him out, but unfortunately, mortally wounded. And whilst it would be painful and unpleasant, mortally wounded, but staying alive just long enough to tell everybody what you've just done. Tell everyone you love them. Hopefully, people with mobile phones will record your last words. You don't want to die instantly, because then there's no glamour. That sounds really inappropriate, doesn't it? Yeah. Let's move on, because
It sounds kind of like you thought about that before as well, which I think is slightly more worrying.
Ironically, not. Believe it or not, no. That was literally open the bullshit tap and let it pour out. That was just made up there and then on the spot, which is quite. But I don't know if that's worse, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Better move on, because I'm a teacher. I'm an upstanding member of society, and I wouldn't want to lose the respect that people have for me.
I'm saying nothing. Do you have any phobias, and would you write about them?
I don't really. There are things that are unpleasant, which I would avoid. A touch of claustrophobia, maybe, but only in specific circumstances. So I would never go spelunking. The idea that I get caught in a hole, and it's not so much being caught in the place, although that's not nice. I mean, I'm not a big fan of things like MRI scans, but being caught in a hole, knowing full well that there's several 100,000 tons of rock above you, so they're never going to move the rock out of the way. I mean, it's you coming out. It's not the rock getting out of the way. So, yeah, would I write about that? Possibly not, for the simple reason, having manfully avoided it for my entire life, I might struggle to talk about it. Yeah. So I probably wouldn't. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting, very, very interesting question, that actually. One I've not thought about before.
Good. I like to ask interesting questions.
Yeah.
What's the most interesting thing you found doing research for your books?
Ooh, right. Okay. So interesting ways to kill people. That's always a good one. Yeah, trying to think about, because the latest book has quite a body count in it, and I don't want to give too much away. But there's some interesting things there. Funnily enough, I never did history at school. I mean, I did it up to like year 9, and then I didn't do GCSE. For Forgive Me, Father, which is the 5th book, it's set in a fictional Ruin Abbey, and I decided I really ought to know a bit more about this. So my partner and I use it as an excuse to go and visit various abbeys and ruined cathedrals and stuff. And I also looked up. I decided having done a bit of research that the abbey was ruined after the King, Henry VIII, abolished the abbeys and the churches and stuff. And so I did a lot of research on that out of interest. I went right down a rabbit hole and really enjoyed it. And pretty much made it in the book. But that's always the way. They always say authors can be an expert on a subject, apparently, and probably cannot tell you a little bit more than is in the book. But beyond that, I mean, we just, fake it till we make it sort of thing. So that was really good. More disturbing research, perhaps, in The Common Enemy, which is the 4th book. The book is all about a far-right activist. Well, I should show the book, shouldn't I? That's a good idea. So this was Forgive Me, Father. And then we have The Common Enemy, the book immediately before it. Now, that is all about far-right activists who was murdered in a back alley. There's been a riot. And they've got to work out who killed him. And he was the leader of a party called the British Allegiance Party, BAP. And I had some fun with that because it took me ages just to find a suitable name, because an awful lot of the names are being used. And BAP is very similar to the British Association of Plastic Surgeons. So I had a little bit of fun with that in the book as well, saying how they got sued. And I did a lot of research. I also spoke to someone who was actually he infiltrated a couple of extremist groups. In fact, he'd infiltrated both sides. He's gone on a march with the death to the Westlock, and has been in with far right activists. And he's worked very, and that was really interesting, and it was scary. Some of the stuff you hear, very funny. Some of it, because although these guys, to dismiss them as idiots is dangerous, because actually there's some quite clever and manipulative people who run these extremist groups. The foot soldiers are just idiots. They really are, and there's stupid things they do. So yeah, he had various stories about these Muppets, and so that research was genuinely really interesting. Looking it up online, not go do their websites, because I didn't really want that on my browsing history. But speaking to people, reading about it, I really enjoyed that. So The Common Enemy, I think, is probably one of the more interesting ones. And last year's book, A Price to Pay, had modern slavery, which I read a lot about that. There was lots of stories on the London News at the time. London News did a big thing on it for several weeks. That was really interesting watching that.
Yeah, we had a case of that near us in Leighton Buzzard, a traveller camp. I think they found loads. Yeah, so that's quite a.
Well, it may be one of the things that sparked the story, because I'd had basically A Price to Pay is the mashing together of 2 ideas, both of which were going to be short novellas originally. There is the death of a person in the massage parlour which happened after my partner bought us massages one Christmas, my first one. And after having had the massage, I lay in the room relaxing and thought, if someone came in that room with a knife, there's nothing I could do about it. That was the first case. But I'd had for years just an image of a woman in a darkened wood running with dogs and people with a shotgun after her. And when I put those two together, that got really interesting. And then I heard one morning when driving across, not that far from Bedfordshire, when I was driving to school one day, I picked up about a story about a traveller's farm and campsite and stuff with these vulnerable workers. And it kind of all comes together in that sort of mishmash. But yeah, and I was driving across the fens when I heard it. And the fens is so empty for miles. It's so rural and empty. And I just thought it feels lonely. I just thought, yeah, you could see it. And as it happened, I'd had the idea for the book some years before. Eva Dolan had written, which one is it? A Long Way from Home, I think it was, the first one. And that involved those themes, again, in that sort of rural setting. So, yeah, all those things came together. Yeah, great research, though, really interesting to look at.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I'd certainly look at how much it costs to get my car hand washed. That's interesting. You think about the logic, right? You pay a £5 or £6 or £7 or something to get your car hand washed, right? It takes these people 20 odd minutes. There's about 4 people working on your car. Do the sums. That is not minimum wage. That's not even close. I was like, yeah, I never really thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like £1 a person ish, maybe at a push.
Yeah, and that doesn't include their overheads for the water and stuff, and whoever's running it, because they're not running it as a charity. I'm assuming the ones in supermarket car parks are better regulated, because there's no way Tesco would want to be associated with that sort of thing. But certainly the ones that just pop up on an old derelict ground and stuff, no. And it's a shame, because we used to go, because these people could earn some money doing a car. I thought it was better than sticking a few quid in the auto car wash at Sainsbury's. Give it to people who are working hard for a living to support them and their families. And then you think, maybe actually that wasn't the right thing to do. But
yeah, that's just pure laziness of not wanting to do it yourself.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm very lazy. Oh God, I hate washing cars.
Me too. I swear I end up wetter than the bloody car, and I don't know what possessed me to buy a white car. That really wasn't smart.
Yes, we've got red. It's a much better colour. I mean, I blame the Scouts for my dislike, because we used to raise money for our Scout troop by doing car washes. I mean, January, great time to do car washes, isn't it? Wash all the salt off. God, I mean, cold. A whole load of us in buckets, and then of course this was back, it's been back in the 80s. A driver hands you 50 pence because it was a contribution, not a fee. 50 pence for doing it, and then whinges that you haven't, like, it's not gleaming and sparkling. It's like, seriously, mate, you're giving me 50p for washing your car. 4 of us took 20 minutes doing it. What do you expect? Toothbrush around the spokes?
See, this is why Girl Guides was better. We just got to speak to old people and make
They wouldn't let my Scout troop near old people. They're mugged up.
So would you consider doing any standalones, or would you like to do another series, or are you happy carrying on with your series?
Yes to all of the above. Yes, so I've got some ideas for standalones, which I hope to look at later in the year. I want to continue writing Warren. There's another, like I said, book 8 next summer, and then the snappily titled book 9 the following summer. But I am very open and would really like to continue writing him, because I really enjoy it, and I've grown with the character and stuff. He's my first love in that respect. In terms of another series, well, there's a couple of the standalone ideas I've got potentially could spin off to another series. One of them definitely could. It's a begin. I started writing that one a couple of years back over the summer, and it was set in the summer of 2020. So I put that one on the shelf. It's got 80,000 words down, but that is it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. I mean, realistically, I could transplant a couple of the characters out of it, but to be honest, I'd rather start a fresh series. One of the ideas I've got, if I take it to fruition, I probably would write in such a way that it could become a series if I liked writing it and people enjoyed it. But it is time. I mean, it's just finding, juggling all these things. I want to be doing 3 things at the same time. I mean, at the moment, I've finished the first working document for book 8 next year, in the sense that I could give you it, you could read it from beginning to end. It's a story. It's a story that needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of words missing and stuff like that, which is great fun. But of course, all I'm thinking about is book 9. I mean, it's, I keep on having these ideas and jotting them down. And at the same time, I planned out one of the standalones the other day. And I say planned. I have a piece of paper with some writing on. But, I've got all these ideas, and if I could do 3 of me writing these 3 things simultaneously, it'd be brilliant. So the answer to the question, yes to all of the above, but just don't ask me when.
Okay. You said that you wrote sort of 2 years behind. So when it does get to 2020 and the pandemic, are you going to write it or are you going to skip it?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I do have the benefit of hindsight. I know colleagues who unfortunately they had no choice. They had to write in 2020. I've just read the latest Liz Mystery D.I. Maguire book, and the pandemic's in that. Although for anybody who I've put off there, please don't be put off by that. What she's done is she's very light touch. So there's just reference to them socially distancing in interviews, put a mask on stuff. What I will probably do, my gut feeling at the moment, is that I will have a book just before, so maybe set in February of 2020 with some foreshadowing. Now, Susan Warren's wife is a school teacher. I can assure you that science teachers saw the writing on the wall from about January. So we had a gut feeling. We didn't always share it. We were doing some wedding planning in the February half term, and there was a voice at the back of my head. I kept to myself and saying, "We'll see how this goes." By beginning of March, I was driving in every morning, listening to the news, and I was thinking, "Yeah, I know where this is going." So there can be some foreshadowing. I might have a little fun with that with her, persuading him to take some hand sanitizer and stuff. Then I thought what I might do then is have one set perhaps this summer, because I'll have the benefit of hindsight, so I can accurately write about this summer. Things have opened up a bit more, and it'll be a light touch. It'll be, he gets out the car to go to interview, so he grabs his mask. It'll be that sort of thing, a little bit social distancing. Hopefully some of these really good police documentaries you see, 24-hour in custody and stuff, a lot of those have got new series coming up, and they must have been filmed, at least in part, in lockdown. So I'll be watching those to see how they're dealing with it, so I can, because what I don't want to do is me just make it up and think that's sensible and have loads of coppers say, "Oh, I never did any of that," or "Seriously, that would never happen because we had our health and safety wouldn't allow us to do it." So yes, that could be quite useful to know. So yeah, I'm not gonna completely pretend it never happened, because I think that'll age the books. I mean, I know a lot of us don't want to necessarily read something that features the pandemic as a plotline, because it's a bit too raw. It's been too painful for everyone. But that's what happened after in the interwar period. People didn't write about the wars for a couple of years afterwards, and then they started bringing it in because the war happened and everybody was affected by it, and you can't gloss over that. And if you look at a book now that was set in 1947 and it didn't mention the war, looking back on it, you'd think it's a bit weird. Yeah. Because surely there was bomb craters in the middle of the high street and stuff still, and a book set in 44 with no mention of the war. I mean, it just wouldn't work, would it? But yeah, those books would. I mean, that'll be that's going to be 23. No, next summer's book's 2022, isn't it? Yeah, it's 23. Yeah, it'll be about 2024 before I need to start. I mean, I'll have to write it obviously 18 months before, but yeah, 2024 before they hit the shelf. So I have to, I can't ignore it.
It'll be, hopefully it'll be far enough away and
Yes.
finished with by then. And also a random tangent, or obviously 24 Hours in Police Custody is filmed in my town.
Is it?
Yes.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Did you see the one in the Luton Mall where there was blood, where 3 young lads stabbed each other? There was literally blood throughout the whole shopping centre.
No, I didn't. And I tell you why. When I first, I don't know whether it was me misremembering the early series or whether they did genuinely change the format a bit. I thought that 24 Hours in Police Custody was one of these fly on the wall, stick the camera in there, literally for 24 hours in police custody. And I never watched it because I just assumed it was going to be lots of people being arrested, stuck in front of the custody officer, and frankly, me just getting really annoyed at the waste of taxpayers' money. Seriously, I mean, why did you do that? Look at all the money you've wasted. I just thought it would get me annoyed. So I never watched it. And then I recorded it I recorded it the last series and realised that they followed the investigation for ages. And I was like, oh, goodness sake, I've been missing this. It's Channel 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I might be able to go back and stream the earlier programmes. But were the earlier programmes, did they follow whole investigations?
Yeah.
Then it's a silly title, isn't it? 24 Hours in Police Custody. because those investigations, they took 18 months, some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, that's the thing. You see, I would have watched it if I'd known it was that. So no, so I didn't see that one. I only saw the latest series, and I was really impressed. My partner and I watched far too much true crime. It really is not healthy, but we enjoyed that. We really enjoyed that. So now that I know it's on all 4, I might do a bit of searching later on.
Yeah. If you see that one, then I was at work that day when the boys stabbed each other, and I was training 2 new people. And it was their second day. One of the young girls said, "Is that blood outside the front?" I was like, "No, don't be silly." So I went and had a look, and I was like, "Yeah, I think it is actually." And then the police came and they shut down the shopping centre, and I went to have a nose because people do.
Oh, absolutely.
But we couldn't see anything, and it's really funny. One of the security guards that we're quite friendly with just nonchalantly walks past and just goes off to wherever he goes off to. It was very funny.
Yeah. Do you know, when I was about 18, I saw a stabbing in Coventry Town Centre. Me and my mate's been out for a few drinks, and we were walking back. We just gone to a local chip shop. As we walked back, this lad came across the road. We just had a bit of shouting, and then they were fighting and shouting at each other and stuff. And it was a black lad stabbed a white guy. Okay. And he slashed him with a knife. He's more of a slash than a stab. Anyway, we went around the corner, and then the police turned up, and they got this lad, and they straight down on him, kneeling on him, and sort of thing, bang down on the floor. And he'd walked past us shouting, "Chuck it, chuck it." His mate shouting, "Chuck it, chuck it." And he looked at us and we thought, oh God, he's going to chuck a knife at us, or he's even going to come at us. So it's quite scary. But anyway, went home, didn't think anything of it. A couple of days later, a local newspaper says that this guy who was stabbed is in critical condition. And we were like, we really need to turn up to the police station and give our side of events. So we did. And I wrote a statement. Well, I dictated the statement. They wrote the statement. I got them to correct the statement. And didn't think anything of it until a few months later, second day of Freshers Week at university in Bath, I get this summons. I was like, oh, you're joking. So I had to ditch Freshers Week and go back, and I went up to the court, and they all came in saying the same entrance, and I recognised the guy with a knife. We met the various lawyers and stuff, and they took us into the courtroom, and they said, we're going to get a screen here. Went, no, judge didn't like screens. I said, hang on a second, this is a guy who stabbed someone, and I'd quite like a screen because because I live in this town, I'd rather he didn't know who I was. And they said, well, he allegedly stabbed someone. I said, yeah, I saw him do it. I said, there's no doubt in my mind that he did it. So anyway, we went back, and we were not happy, but what can you do? You're there, you've got to give evidence. And I sit down to this guy, next to this guy, and I realise it's the guy who was stabbed. He was absolutely fine. He had stitches, but he wasn't stabbed. He was slashed. So the Coventry Telegraph had lied about him, but it wasn't even close to death. Apparently, it was stitches and go home. So anyway, we get chatting, and he's like, "Oh, I really appreciate you coming in." This, no problem at all. Yes, yeah. That black bee, he stabbed me. At which point I thought, "Oh God." And I pieced it together. Yeah. So what basically happened was this white guy and his mates had gone and given a load of racial to this black lad, threatened him in all sorts, and they got stabbed. And the thing was, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I chucked the book at the guy. He's carrying a knife. He shouldn't be. Simple as. Shouldn't, you know. But you suddenly realise I'm not 100% on the side of the angels here, am I? Fortunately, though, at the last possible minute, the guy changed his plea to guilty, and I never had to give evidence, which meant that I could go home that day. But although the solicitor spoke to us, said, I can't believe he's done that, though. So you realise they're going to chop the bucket in now because they've sworn in everybody. They've got all of this. They've paid a fortune to get all the witnesses in because they'd had to pay me travel costs and subsistence costs and all sorts. He says, now he's just gone and done that when he could have pled guilty much earlier. And, you know, it's just like, oh. I mean, so it was interesting. It's one of the things I could look back on, like that sort of brushing experience with the criminal justice system. But yeah, it did leave a bad taste in my mouth. And then I got asked to come and give evidence because this guy was claiming money off the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board. Sorry, he can do it himself. I really wasn't impressed. I thought the way he was speaking, I just thought, oh, you're a full-on racist, mate. You didn't get what you deserved because I strongly believe that that's incorrect. He did not get what he deserved at all. It should never have happened. But yeah, I don't particularly like you, mate.
Yeah, don't even get me started on. It's something that we learned about as part of our degree. And some of the opinions I had have changed, some for better and some for worse.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, definitely. I must admit, watching a lot of this true crime, I mean, we've been watching some. I can't stand Piers Morgan. I think he's a despicable human being, but he's a very good interviewer. Where there's a series on Netflix where he interviews psychopaths, and we've just watched one. We're watching one about killer women. So he goes to these women who are serving life sentences for killing people. And we're kind of alternating with another thing called I Am a Killer, which is where people are talking about what happened. And it is really interesting because you do start to develop opinions on these people, often based on whether you think they are legitimately remorseful or whether they are just, you know, they've made a whole construct for themselves where in many ways they are the victim, you know. And that is true for some cases. And we've watched some of the I'm a Killer, and there's a guy there's two we've watched where we just went, man, we've actually, although the killing should never have happened, we thought, my God, you hear it's that tick list, isn't it, of the things that happened to the childhood, everything that's happened to them, and you just think, my God, yeah. And you look at the person who they killed, and you think, well, you know, you can see how it all came about, and they've been failed on every single level, and now they're in prison for 50 years, and you think, yeah, they whilst not taken away from the nature of their crime, that was terrible. And then we've watched other ones where because I'm a Killer's fascinating if you've not seen it, because they start with a monologue from the criminal, just talking to the camera, telling you what they did, and this is where they put aside their story. Then it cuts to the victim's family or to the police, and they cut forward and backwards 2 or 3 times, and you really get a feeling for whether these people are genuinely remorseful, whether the sequence of events they are describing is their favored version, shall we say, or whether it is actually a reasonable summation of what actually happened. And when you cut to the police then saying, yeah, I mean, the way she talks, you'd think they've known each other for ages. They met each other 26 days previously, and she said she's going to be with him for the rest of her life. And you think, oh, now that's interesting. From the way that she was talking, where she apparently, this was a woman who'd done a mercy killing of somebody who asked her to. And it turns out that they're only each other 26 days. And you think, really? He asked you to do that after 26 days? It's fascinating. So yeah, if anyone's not seen it, I'm a Killer on Netflix, and it is really quite compelling. And it's good old fashioned shout at the screen TV, which we do a lot of. It's no. Oh, where's the solicitor? Watch the video. You know, in America, yeah. Do you want a lawyer? Yes, but we're not going to get you one. But yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realise they had a different justice system, but now I do. And I mean, ours is broken, but it's not the American system, which is much more broken.
It's horrendous. I mean, over here, I've spoken to a defence solicitor who says that actually, he says he knows full well that police who stopped interviews and said, seriously, mate, you need a solicitor. Get yourself a solicitor. Because it covers everybody as well. Because the last thing you want is for some sort of procedural error during the interview, which means that the jury doesn't look favourable. And you know, you watch these American ones with no solicitor, and it looks like they're being bullied, and juries don't like that. So it covers everybody. But these American ones, particularly the minors, where they just say, well, you know, you could talk to us now, but if you get your lawyer in, you know, you won't be able to talk to me, and I can't do any favors. And you're thinking, no, that's wrong. And these people are just chatting away. We're just shouting, shut up. Even whether we think they're guilty and deserve everything they're ultimately going to get, we're still like, shut up and get a lawyer.
Yeah, it's appalling. And people with special needs and stuff as well. Yeah. Oh my God.
Have you seen Making a Murderer?
Yes, I was just thinking exactly that.
Brendan Dacey, classic, isn't it?
Why is he still in jail? The poor...
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, I follow Laura Narida on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, it's shocking. But also, that initial interview, I mean, no, there wasn't even a responsible adult there for half of it, let alone a kid with learning difficulties. I mean, it's absolutely appalling. But when they do their appeals, it's the same judge who originally sentenced them, and you're thinking, so hang on a second, you ask this judge and say, look, Your Honour, we think you got it wrong the first time round. Would you mind having another look and deciding as the sole authority as to whether you did your job wrong or not? But what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, totally fair and just.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll put my hands up and say, I screwed up. Yeah, absolutely. I look like a chump. Yeah, I've had it. Yeah.
We seem to have digressed again.
We have, yes, absolutely. Yes. Go on, yank us back on track.
That means I have to think of another question now. Do you have lots of author friends?
I do now. Yes, that's the lovely thing about these festivals is you get to know these folks. Social media, obviously, contacted people. There's quite a few who. I'm a member of the Crime Writers Association, so we have regular chapter get-togethers. So there's people there who I've been going to lunch for years, and they're friends. Yeah, no question. And there are others. I go to a monthly thing in London called First Monday Crime, and it's online at the moment, but it's down in London. And we tend to meet up at the pub beforehand. There's a panel of 4 or 5 speakers chaired by an experienced moderator, and then back to the pub afterwards. And genuinely, there's a few people there I'd look out for each time, and it's meeting your mate once a month. And yes, I do. And it's been an absolute pleasure. It's a real good laugh. When you're all in the bar afterwards, just chatting about, often not about books and stuff. It's just chatting about life. Yeah, so there's definitely a few there who are friends. No question about that. Yeah.
And do you get a lot of feedback from your readers?
I do get some, yeah. I mean, obviously there's Amazon reviews, which are a bit of one-sided feedback. It comes from them and whatever. But I do get the odd email, which is nice. I've had some really lovely ones. I've had some barking mad ones as well, obviously. But years ago, they would have been written in red crayon. But yes, I haven't had too many of those, actually. But yes, I have had some lovely emails from those. If I find I'm a member of lots of book groups on Facebook, and if I'm tagged and see the post, then I will always go in and respond to that person, because I really like that. They're taking the time to actually review the book. They're taking the time to think about what you've written, and often and tagged you in to let you know that they were happy with it, which is really lovely. I know that there are some who will write an excruciating review and tag you. I've not really had that. I've been very fortunate Some people I know have, I mean that, and in that case, it's bullying really. But no, normally I read this book, I really enjoyed it, and I tagged the author in, and it's just so nice. Because writing ultimately, despite all the input from people like my beta readers, my partner, my parents, etc., the editors, stuff, fundamentally it's a solo pursuit, and so that feedback is lovely. And I obviously my day job being a teacher, when I'm in the classroom, I've got 30 people feeding back to me all the time. I mean, teaching is a job for people who are people, and you've got your colleagues. And as a secondary teacher, you might teach 4 or 5 classes a day, so that's 150 people come through your classroom, all of whom give you feedback to a greater or lesser degree, good or bad. And so, as a writer, the feedback comes when you publish the book, and that's your primary feedback. So it's really lovely when the readers do that. And I often said that reviews are a bit like, imagine you're having an appraisal at work, but you've had no feedback from your boss all year. It's just the end of the year. He's having you in their office to give you your appraisal feedback, and you've actually got no guidance on how you've done that year. So in many ways, when those first reviews come through, and they've just started trickling through for Out of Sight now. I've had a few on NetGalley and Goodreads, and there's 5 on Amazon. Not that I've checked several times today. Those reviews coming through, you are waiting. You see, right, there's a review. Okay, you see the star, which is good. You think, well, it can't be that bad if they're giving that many stars. But still, you're waiting for the, yes. But I love the feedback. It is so nice. And it's just a thought. Somebody's read my book. Somebody's took 6 or whatever hours out of their life to when they could have been doing anything else. And they've spent the time to read my book, and now they're going to tell me what they thought about it. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah.
What's been your favourite moment so far being an author?
Oh, well, there's the obvious ones are, the first time you see your book appear on Amazon. My books initially were only ebooks, so it was a good few years in before I got the opportunity to open the box of books when they went back and did a paperback, put them all out into paperback a few years ago. That's good fun. Feedback as my circle of author friends has grown as well. Like today, I spent an awful lot of time on Twitter because I've been sharing on Twitter that the book was coming out. I've got a blog post was written. I wrote for my publisher, so I had to share that, loads of stuff, and we get this feedback coming through, and that's really lovely. So in terms of what's your best moment, I think it's that first time somebody other than my sort of immediate circle of friends and family had read what I'd written and and said they liked it, and it was just like fantastic. Because like I say, my parents and my girlfriend are my beta readers, and they love me, so they've got to say it's nice. And obviously my editors, feedback from my editors and my publishers is very important. But once that a reader who's spent some money and spent time says they like it, then that's just like, yes, that's really, really good. Yeah.
If you're able to spend a day with any author, dead or alive, who would you like to spend a day with?
Oh, there's a few there, isn't there? I've been lucky enough to meet my idol Lee Child a couple of times. He's a very nice man, and we actually sat and had a bit of a natter with a group, not me, just a group of us. He just came, kind of plonked himself down with us when we were having a drink at Crime Fest, and that was really nice. And in fact, he was generous enough to troll my sister for me on the family WhatsApp, because he's from Birmingham. Well, actually, no, he's not. Sorry, he was born in Coventry but brought up in Birmingham, which means he's an Aston Villa fan. Now, I'm not into sport, but my sister is a big Coventry City fan. And if there is one team that Coventry City hate on the entire planet, it is Aston Villa. So somebody born in Coventry supporting Aston Villa is a massive traitor. So anyway, my sister was heavily pregnant, and I asked him, would he do a WhatsApp video on the family WhatsApp? And he wished her all the best. Said that he hoped the baby was happy and healthy and grew up to be a Villa fan. Shared that one on the family WhatsApp. Everybody replied except her. So that was fun. And I'd love to spend more time with Lee. Someone I've never, two authors I've never met. Massive fans of their books. Michael Connolly from the Harry Bosch series. I mean, I'd love to meet him properly. I've only ever seen him on the screen because I think he was going to do one of the festivals that was cancelled last year, and I remember being gutted particularly. David Baldacci is the other one. I mean, he writes 2 or 3 a year. I mean, different series. I was delighted when he did a live event online, and I asked him a question, and I was delighted he answered that question. I'd love to meet him, spend some bit of time just chatting with him, because he seems like a really interesting guy, as does Michael Connolly. So yeah, I think those 3 are the ones that spring to mind immediately. Very briefly met Karen Slaughter. Would love to spend more time with her because she just seems to be an absolute blast, doesn't she? She's an absolute. I had no idea until I went and saw her doing she did a panel with Mark Binningham a couple of years ago, because they both got published the same year, so they've known each other for years. And the Mark Binningham obviously is great value for money whenever you watch him. He's brilliant. The 2 of them together was just hilarious. And I thought, because I had not even heard her voice before then. I think I'd seen her. Possibly seen her doing a brief thing on a true crime thing, but yeah, I've not seen it, and she was absolute revelation. I thought, oh yes. So I really hope that when everything's travel bans and stuff are lifted, she does come over to one of the UK festivals, because then I will definitely go to whatever she's doing, and hopefully end up in the bar having a chat. That would be fantastic, because she just looks absolute hoot.
Yeah, I would totally fangirl over her. She's one of the reasons I've read all her books, I think.
Yeah, she's superb, isn't she? Her series is so dark and so dark in so many ways, yet still it's an enjoyable read. I mean, and her standalones. I mean, some really clever standalones. Really clever. Yeah. So I admire her professionally, but also she just looks damn good fun.
Yeah, I love Mark Binningham. I've interviewed him, and it's just an absolute laugh. He's great.
He's a great laugh, isn't he? Yeah.
It's just nuts. It's just an absolute nutcase.
Yeah, they always used to say when you go to the major festivals, the first person you bump into is Mark Billingham outside, and then the last person you see as you saying goodbye to everyone is Mark Billingham. He just seems to be omnipresent at these things. Look around, there's Mark. Sometimes you think, hang on a second, I'm sure he's in there doing a panel, and yet he's standing there having a pint.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, hopefully I could meet him. I'd love to meet him properly.
He's got the public persona, obviously, but he's a genuinely nice guy to be around as well. He's really, really pleasant man.
Yeah, he seemed to be, and really modest as well, which is really nice, actually, considering he's like insanely successful and done so many different things.
He is, yeah.
Where is it? Some people just have it all, don't they?
I know. And they made Marion. I mean, the man's got everything.
Running around in tights. I'm sure that's many a man's dream.
Yeah, exactly. That's the great thing about Zoom calls, isn't it? I mean, you've got no idea what I'm wearing below here. I mean, it could be, I could be dressed as a minstrel from Robin Hood's times. You just never know, would you? No, I mean, this hides a lot of sins, because I desperately need another lockdown haircut.
Yes, and we shall keep it that way, by the way. And also, likewise,
Yeah,
I could just be, but yeah. Anyway,
well, I can't stand up anyway. I'm at a camping table because my office is no way would I want to show the world the state of my office. So we put the camping table in front of a nice bookcase and the laptop for anything like this. But to get everything in the right space, I am basically embedded under this camping table. So there is no way I can stand up. Yeah, if I do, you're just going to see the laptop just go.
Yeah, you'd have to save your tights or your tutu skirt or your high heels for next time.
Yeah, well, the hat has been a signature look at festivals for a while, simply because I usually go in the summer. But what you don't see at the moment is because just for clarity, I do have clothes on the lower half, but I'm not wearing trousers that my braces fit on, because I normally wear braces. So my signature look at sort of any of these things is braces and a hat. So yes, the braces will be back out next year at the festivals.
Awesome. I shall keep an eye out. So what do you like to do when you're not writing and teaching and whatever else?
I would say far too much true crime. An awful lot of true crime. We really enjoy that. Yeah, reading is the obvious one. I mean, I love doing the reading. Do you know, I haven't got any like really exciting hobbies. I mean, I'm not, I don't do macrame in my spare time or anything like that. An awful lot of what I do is reading, watching sort of crime TV and stuff, sort of consuming media, if you like. I got into and I had to stop swimming. I'm good about that. I'll hopefully start doing that over the summer again once the jabs have kicked in properly and social distancing is a bit better. So yeah, back in swimming and stuff like that. But no, for the most part, it is just, it is primarily reading and watching documentaries and stuff. And the writing it started as a hobby, became a hobby that that funded itself, and now is part of my living. So it's kind of it's evolved over time. So I do spend an awful lot of time thinking about writing, what I want to write next and that. So yeah, I'm not the most exciting and dynamic of people, I have to say, when it comes.
Me either, so it's fine. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh goodness me! I can tell you my current one is.
Hopefully your girlfriend.
She's not a celebrity, so I've got a free pass on. I've got a free pass on.
Oh, that's all right then. Yeah.
I think I've got a free pass. I like on Victoria.
You're not
Coronage.
married yet, you know that, right? She
Yeah,
can
exactly.
still ditch you.
No. We did. That's not going to happen. We've just bought a new microwave between us, so we stay together if only for the sake of the microwave. Yes, I actually proposed to her in the back of one of my books. So I know. So if she ever does leave me, that'll be embarrassing because it's in the British Library forever. But celebrity crush. Oh goodness me! I have to say, Kylie Minogue back in the 80s was interesting when you were a young man. It was like, but yeah, that's probably aspect. Yeah, probably about the first I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird with guys. It's either cartoon characters. Actually, generally it's cartoon characters, which I find really odd.
Actually, I've just remembered Chitara from Thundercats. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas women, it's David Cassidy or Donny Osmond, like pretty much generally always.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I know the missus currently likes Henry Cavill, but she's probably pretty much the only reason she's watched the various DC movie stuff with me. And funny enough, she didn't watch the previous Mission Impossible movie. Maybe I ought to convince her. He's in it. He's got a moustache. Yeah,
I reckon that would probably do it. Yeah. And if we were to ask your darling fiance what your most annoying habit is, what would she say?
Isn't there a limit to how long these recordings can last?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I've got the extra full.
Probably. Leaving stuff around. I've got better. I mean, she begged me the other day because I was leaving. I stay up later than she does, and I sort of sitting there drinking squash and that in the evening while I'm working. And I was tending to leave well, she says I always do. I did it sometimes, but she says you always leave your pint glass of empty pint glass in the living room. So I did I made a point of putting it in the kitchen before I went to bed the other night and putting a post-it note on it to say, see, I can put my glasses back. So leaving things around. Yes, I can imagine just me generally can be quite annoying if you're stuck in a house with me for 14 months. But I think that's probably the main thing she'd say. Yeah.
It sounds like she's training you though, ready for when you're married, so that's good.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of training needs to be done. And she doesn't squirt water at my face yet, so I can be grateful for that.
If you're able to visit any country, where would you go? Obviously,
Oh,
post restrictions and rubbish.
yeah, I know we've always said we've got one or two sort of relatives who live in Australia, and we've said that would be. Cheryl's been to Australia before she met me, but I would like to go do a bit of a tour there of Australia. Our plans for honeymoon is we want to go to Florence. We postponed the wedding 4 times now, so hopefully at some point next year we will get to Florence for the honeymoon. And I actually worked for 6 months in Toronto, but I never saw anything. I just spent all my time in the lab. And when I finally decided I'd had enough of that, I was going to come back and retrain as a teacher. I had a brief period of a few days where I was able to go and see a bit more of Toronto. So we were going to go, ideally go for a quick trip to Florence for 3 or 4 days after we got married, and then go for 2 or 3 weeks to Toronto and actually see that part of Canada properly, Niagara Falls and all that sort of thing. And it'd be in the summer as well, because when I left in the winter, it was -15 and there was 1.5 meters of snow on the floor, which even the Canadians struggle to put their best side on show when the weather's like that.
Yeah, I think my cousin's getting married in Canada. Maybe not next year, the year after. So if he does, I'd love to go.
Yeah, we're getting married in Essex, but yeah, the honeymoon might be Canada. Yeah, fingers crossed. We had it all booked, and then obviously we had to cancel it last year. We did get everything back, which is good, but yes, it was yeah. So we found a lovely apartment and everything. I mean, it was just a real case of this is we've got just what I was so looking forward to. It's like
It'll be so much better when you finally get there.
Party, isn't it, next year? Literary festivals, wedding, honeymoon. It's just going to be a year-long party. That's great.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you, unless you think there's anything that I haven't asked you that you want to tell us about.
No, I think we've rambled on for a very long time. We've pretty much touched on everything. Yeah, everything. I think there's no stone was left unturned. Fortunately, you weren't recording the first 15 minutes when we got to know each other. So, no, I've had a blast. It's been an absolute hoot. So yeah, really enjoyed that. And now I can say I've been morphoted, which I believe is now a verb.
Apparently, yeah. Who started that?
I don't know. I noticed it on your Facebook group. Well, that's great. Yeah.
Was it Liz? Liz Mystery, was it?
Could possibly have been Liz. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would say.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Speaking of Liz, I'm just going to put a shameless plug in. So in a couple of weeks' time, I am helping moderate a panel, Crafting a Compelling Copper. It's the Crime Rights Association are doing a series of free events. You have to get an Eventbrite ticket just to get the link and stuff, but it's free. And the details, and I shall make sure I am reading them out properly. Okay, so it's June the 15th at 7:30. It's part of National Crime Reading Month. This, if you've not realised, is what June has been designated. And basically, I will be talking to Jane Bettany, who wrote In Cold Blood, Liz Mystery, who has 2 series. She has the D.I. Gus McGuire and the Nikki Parrick. And then Ros Watkins, who writes Meg Dalton. And basically, we're going to talk about what it takes to write an interesting police officer. We'll probably talk a little bit about settings and books generally. It's going to be really, really good fun. So if you're interested in tickets for that, like I said, they're free. You can follow me on Twitter at DCI Jones Writer, and I'll get a link up there a little bit later on. But it's in my feed, and I keep on getting tagged in it, so you can find me easy enough. So Crafting a Compelling Copper. If you do search for that, you should find it very easy.
I'll try and add the link on when I post a video. So
oh, terrific! That'd be really helpful. Yeah,
it's like totally gonna go and get a ticket as well. As long as I'm not working, I shouldn't be. Yeah, so before we go, would you like to tell everyone where they can find your books and where they can find out more about you?
Absolutely. So, Out of Sight obviously came out on June the 4th, the day we were recording this. So it's currently ebook. It will be out in paperback and audiobook on August 5th. So you can get it from all the usual retailers there. My publisher is HQ Digital, which is part of HarperCollins. So you can go directly to the website there. If you want to find out more about me, well, my website is a good place to start, www.paulgitsham.com. Obviously, my spelling will be in the link that Donna posts. And on social media, if you look for on Facebook for DCI Warren Jones, there's a DCI Warren Jones page specifically. And then I'm on Instagram, Paul Gitsham, and on Twitter is at DCI Jones Writer. So yes, I am available in all of those media. But the website's a good place to start because it's got the link, jumps off to all of them. So all of the books, they've got their own page on there, so you can see what they're about and the themes. And all my books, so all 7 full-length books are available in paperback and audio as well. And then there are 4 shorter novellas, which are ebook only. You can read them. I mean, they're an ongoing story, but and as always, they benefit from being read in order. But all the feedback I've had on all the books lately I've often been from. This was the first one I picked up, and I hadn't read it as in the series, but it didn't seem to matter. So yes, don't feel you necessarily have to start at the beginning. If you see one that just takes your fancy, just dive straight in.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciated it.